Well, the closure itself, I think there was an inevitability about that when things started to come out. There's a downside to it. There's a downside in terms of plurality of press. There's a downside in terms of the people who are employed there who actually have nothing to do with this. More widely, I think there are some issues about the culture that lies behind it. There are investigations going on, police investigations, parliamentary inquiries, and we'll see what comes out in terms of that detail. But the culture which says that actually it's okay, or it seemed to be okay, to get stories in this way, that's questionable within the media, but also within the public, because we're the ones who seem to be buying the papers and demanding the stories.
There is an issue here, isn't there, on a wider, as you say, from the public. There is a demand for this kind of journalism. Do you think that demand might change when people realise the price that we have to pay for it?
Well, one quietly hopes so. How realistic that is, I don't know. But it's interesting listening to American commentators this morning saying, well, that's how it would be in Britain, isn't it? Because they have a certain view of certain sections of our press, that's how we operate, apparently. And that needs questioning. If there are some things which we as a society need to say, well, actually that's not acceptable, whatever the story, then we need to say that in some way. And maybe some of the inquiries that will come out of this will give the opportunity for some of that to be said.
It transpires today that there was a case that we are reporting on today of bullying within the News of the World. And I think there will be more revelations as it goes on. What would you want to come out of this ultimately?
Well, there again, that's another issue of the culture within a particular organisation and the pressure that's put on to get the story, I suspect. And if we don't want to muzzle the press, that's the difficult thing. We pride ourselves on our free press, we pride ourselves on having investigative journalism, but it needs to be done in a way that is, what should we say, wholesome, which is proper, which is not underhand, which doesn't exploit people, particularly which doesn't exploit vulnerable people. And of course some of the real anguish and scandal over the present situation is that it's vulnerable people, it seems, who've been targeted, who've had their phones hacked and so forth. And that, if society begins to react against that, well, that might be something quite good.